I would never consider a woman like you as family. Get out of here and don't ever come back. No matter how much I protested, my mother-in-law just kept yelling that she wouldn't even consider reconciling. All I wanted was to get along with my mother-in-law and be a part of the family. Why can't she understand my feelings? If my mother-in-law continues with this attitude, I have my own plans. She'll regret not accepting me for the rest of her life. My name is Abby, a 30-year-old housewife. I met my husband at our workplace, and we fell in love, leading to marriage. I was drawn to his hardworking nature. After marrying, I decided to become a housewife, as my husband wished. My colleagues threw me a farewell party. Since we worked at the same company, we had many mutual friends who also attended our wedding. It was a marriage blessed by many. The happiness of everyone witnessing my big day made me resolve to build a happy home with my husband. My husband's dad passed away when he was young, leaving only his mother and his family. I have great respect for my mother-in-law, who raised her son all by herself. Now that I'm becoming part of the family, I decided to express my gratitude to her in my own way. But becoming a family turned out to be harder than I thought. We had met before the wedding, but to formally greet her, my husband and I visited her house. When we rang the doorbell, she warmly welcomed us inside. We enjoyed snacks and chatted with her, sharing recent happenings and troubles. My mother-in-law listened sincerely to our problems, which was very helpful. She truly seemed like someone who had raised my husband. May I speak to you alone for a moment? I want to have a woman-to-woman talk, she said. After these words from my mother-in-law, my husband said, I'll go out for some shopping, and left the house. This was my first time alone with my mother-in-law. Until now, I had managed to converse well with my husband's support, but being alone with her, I didn't know what to talk about and felt nervous. Seeing my nervousness and smiling, my mother-in-law began to speak. Look, Abby, you're trying hard to become part of our family, but it's all in vain. Her sudden words made my eyes widen. She continued to smile gently, but her thoughts were unreadable. Seeing my confusion, my mother-in-law burst into laughter and said, while laughing loudly, You're so naive, Abby. Let me make it clear for you. I don't accept you as family. I allowed my son to marry you because he insisted, but the thought of being family with someone like you is repulsive. I'll pretend to be family in front of my son, since he seems to truly consider you as family, but that doesn't mean I will ever accept you as family. The mother-in-law I met before the marriage seemed like such a kind woman. I thought she must be incredible for raising her son alone, but this is the reality. I had been ready to make an effort to become a part of my mother-in-law's family, but if the crucial mother-in-law won't accept me, what can I do? I was stunned by the magnitude of the barrier that had arisen so suddenly. Yet at that time, I had no idea of the hell that awaited me. Even after being told such things by my mother-in-law, I didn't give up. Our relationship had only just begun. Maybe we just hadn't understood each other well enough yet. Thinking this, I tried to balance time with my husband on weekends and actively sought to spend time with my mother-in-law during the weekdays. As a housewife, visiting every day was honestly tough, but it seemed trivial if it meant becoming a real family with my mother-in-law. I would finish my household chores perfectly and then help with chores at her house. I was always good at cooking, so I often prepared meals for my mother-in-law. At first, she would say, "Not bad," and ate what I made. But as I continued to cook daily, her attitude began to change. One day I served my mother-in-law a cream stew. My mom was very particular about the taste of her cooking, so I was proud of this dish, modeled after hers. As usual, my mother-in-law started eating with a dissatisfied look on her face, but her usual reaction was absent. Worried, I approached her, and she grabbed the stew plate and threw its contents at me. The heat and pain struck me all at once. I rushed to the kitchen to cool the burn, and my mother-in-law laughed at me. Just like that day, coming here every day, you're really shameless. Were you trying to win my favor? Let me tell you, my mind will never change. I won't accept you as family no matter how delicious your cooking is. And today's stew was even worse than usual. Your cooking isn't very good to begin with, but today's was just awful. If you're going to serve something like this, don't come to my house anymore. The heat, the pain, and my mother-in-law's scolding overwhelmed me. My mind went blank. What should I have done? What could I have done? Watching me lost and confused. My mother-in-law sneered. She didn't offer a hand, just laughed at my disgrace. All I wanted was to build a relationship with my mother-in-law. All I wanted was to become a part of her family. It's such a small wish. Is it too much for me to hope for? The way forward seemed obscured by fog. I didn't know what to do anymore, but I still couldn't give up. Even after what happened, I kept going back to the house over and over again. Each time, my mother-in-law would hurl vulgar insults at me, but I became used to it after a while. I apologized repeatedly, expressed my feelings, and did as much housework as possible in hopes of being accepted. The new routines that had become normal since getting married were unbearably hard without a visible goal in sight, yet I couldn't give up. That day, too, my mother-in-law hurled nasty words at me. There's no way I can accept a woman like you as family. Just get out and don't ever come back. Saying this, she grabbed a trash bag and threw it over me with all her might. You're the trash of society, the blemish of my life. My son and I would have been happy if we never met you. Her words pained me, making it hard to breathe. Then the trash bag made it even harder to breathe. I couldn't bear my mother-in-law's words and actions anymore. I just wanted to be part of the family. Why can't we be a family? No matter how hard I try, it all seems futile. Maybe no matter how hard I try, it's all in vain. Maybe all my efforts have been a waste. Maybe my mother-in-law and I will never understand each other. As I fled the house and looked up at the clear sky, I felt foolish. What was all my effort for? What was the point of all my hard work? Had I been making unnecessary efforts all along? Did I continue to suffer just to understand someone like her? I must be really stupid. Anger welled up in me towards my mother-in-law, who used my feelings and said whatever she wanted. My mother-in-law, who disregarded my feelings and used me for her stress relief. I felt I had to make her suffer to vindicate all my past efforts. Fueled by anger, I ran home. Just as I got there, my phone rang insistently. I didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. It was from a major hospital. Apparently, my mother-in-law had been taken there by an ambulance. Confused, I asked what happened. After I left, my mother-in-law had gone on a rampage in her anger and fell, hitting her head. A neighbor heard the noise and called for help, finding her unconscious. Sorry to ask, but can you come to the hospital immediately? The paramedics requested. I replied, as if it were obvious. I'm sorry, but I can't come. That person is not my family. I'll let her son know to go there later. The paramedics sounded hesitant, but I ignored it and hung up. Normally, a wife would rush to the hospital, but my mother-in-law stubbornly refused to accept me as family. I did my best to become part of my mother-in-law's family, but if she herself rejects me and refuses to share the same space, then the best thing I can do for her is to stay away. It's a bit of sophistry, but it's my small act of revenge. The thought of my mother-in-law's suffering made my heart race. Later, only my husband went to the hospital after work. The doctor said that my mother-in-law's fall caused brain damage, leaving her in need of care. She can communicate but can't move her body. Abby, please help me, my mother-in-law begged over the phone. I retorted, who would care for someone who isn't family? My mother-in-law fell silent. My husband was unaware of everything, so I secretly played him all the recordings of my conversations with my mother-in-law. He apologized for not realizing sooner and decided to put her in a care facility. I'm really sorry for not knowing. I'll make Mom reflect on her actions. You don't have to care for her. Let the staff handle everything. I'll pay for it. I quietly accepted his offer. My husband kept apologizing for not noticing or trying to notice, but since he was always a family man and helped with household chores, I accepted his apologies. I don't want to care for someone who's not my family. Do you think I'm terrible for that? I asked him. He answered with his usual gentle expression. No, I don't. It's impossible to dedicate yourself to someone who isn't family. I felt relieved by my husband's words. Honestly, I don't have many good memories with my mother-in-law, but meeting this man was undoubtedly a blessing for me. What are you thinking? Not even willing to take care of your mother-in-law? One weekday, having stopped visiting the in-laws' house, I was enjoying a relaxed afternoon when the phone rang. It was my mother-in-law calling. As soon as I answered, she started yelling without any greeting, calling me a failure and heartless. Are you saying, Chloe, that you would care for someone who isn't family? At my words, my mother-in-law became even more furious and started to rant. And she must still be in the hospital. Her behavior was extremely bothersome to other patients. My mother-in-law's actions can only cause trouble no matter where she is. I sighed in exasperation. I'm sorry, but we've already discussed this with your son. The decision is final, so please give up trying to change it. Now is futile. We're not family, so I cannot help, Chloe. My mother-in-law kept yelling until the end, but I ignored it all and hung up. I could hear a nurse scolding her on the other end. My mother-in-law is just a person who always causes trouble, a human waste. She deserves the appropriate response. Then, my mother-in-law was discharged and, as previously arranged with my husband, admitted to a care facility. I went to see my mother-in-law on the day of her discharge, but as soon as she saw me, she yelled, "You thief!" My husband sighed upon seeing my mother-in-law's behavior. He must have realized the gravity of the situation, having only heard about it before. I received another apology from my husband, but knowing that I no longer needed to accumulate stress from my mother-in-law made me grateful to him. It seems my mother-in-law is causing a ruckus at the care facility, too. She hurls abuse at other residents and complains to the staff. She's treated as a problematic person there, and might be forcibly evicted soon. My husband is looking for a cheaper care facility in preparation for that time. Having such a troublesome mother, my husband seemed to have a hard time, so I also helped him search. As expected, my mother-in-law was forcibly evicted from the care facility, and my husband placed her in a lower-ranked one. She had been in a well-equipped place before, but now she's in a gloomy facility in the countryside. My mother-in-law complained until the end, but we're the ones paying. She should be grateful to be cared for at all, but I doubt my mother-in-law can be grateful for anything. One peaceful day, I received a call from my mother-in-law. Just hearing her voice, I could tell she was at her limit. Please, let's start over. I truly regret my attitude towards you. You are my precious family. Let's start over as a family. I feel it's not too late. My mother-in-law's voice was subdued, and I could tell her current environment was harsh, but the treatment I received from her was much worse. I tried so many times, and it was all wasted. One apology can't just erase all that resentment. I can never accept you as family, Chloe, so please give up. With that, I hung up. I even set my phone to block her calls. Her and I are not family. I don't need to be bothered by a stranger's issues in broad daylight. My husband didn't criticize my attitude, instead agreeing it was the right thing to do. He apologized for not realizing earlier and is making an effort for us to get through this as a couple. I took away someone very important to my husband. That's why I want to do my best for him. I want to figure out what I should do for his happiness, to be happy together and willing to do